It seemed to me the dialogue was pretty ropey.
Right off the bat, I want to make it clear I'm well aware bad dialogue is not unique to the sequel trilogy. Obviously, the prequels have a lot of pretty unnatural dialogue.
I'm haunted by the kiss that you should never have given me.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
You're so beautiful.
It's only because I'm so in love.
No, no, it's because I'm so in love with you.
So love has blinded you?
Yeah, nobody talks like this. Now, a common defense I see popping up now is the dialogue is supposed to be Shakespearean. But if you wanted to introduce Shakespearean dialogue into this franchise, that's really something you have to do, with the first movie and not the fourth one you release. If all the characters started speaking in Shakespearean language in John Wick Chapter 4, it would be a bit jarring even if it was a prequel. And that's if I'm granting this is supposed to be Shakespearean dialogue. That being said, I'm not. I mean, have you actually listened to Shakespearean dialogue?
That which we call a rose by any other word would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes without that title. Romeo, doff thy name, and for thy name, which is no part of thee, take all myself.
I don't like sand.
Trust me, guys, you can tell the difference. The other defense I hear is, yeah, of course Anakin's bad at flirting. I mean, his life as a slave and then a religious monk hasn't exactly given him ample opportunity to work on his riz. And yeah, you know what, fair enough, but then that raises the question, why is Padme so receptive? Look, I do not care how conventionally attractive you are. If your pickup game is to stroke women and tell them how soft they are, you're ending up on a list, probably Epstein's. Like, what is going through Padme's head? I mean, he's giving serial killer, but he chose to serial kill me! No, George Lucas's dialogue is the way it is because the man has a very clear philosophy when it comes to writing.
I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards.
The man's very literal, which causes some of the dialogue to be very stilted, mainly the romance. Obviously, it's not all bad. In fact, the prequels have some of my favourite lines in the entire saga.
You were right about one thing, Master. The negotiations were short.
Then we decided to come and rescue you.
Good job.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
But I'm not going to defend the position that the prequels have good dialogue overall. If any of you want to make that case in the comments, go right ahead. I'll be interested to hear you out. But for now, that's not my fight.
I've been in this fight since...
Never! Now, the point of this video is simply to argue against the idea that the sequel trilogy has better dialogue. Because some of you seem to be under the impression that the sequel trilogy is a step up. And I'm here to argue that's not the case. Oh, and before I move on, here's the correct version of that meme. People will say the dialogue is better in the sequel trilogy because the characters talk like real human beings, but I don't think anything could actually be further from the truth. I'll elaborate on these points as the video goes on, but I actually think The Force Awakens has literally the exact same issue with the dialogue as the prequels. Sure, sometimes they're delivered better. The one thing I will give the sequel trilogy is the acting is more consistently good, but the lines, as I will illustrate shortly, are just as bad. In fact, the exposition in The Force Awakens is terrible. The Last Jedi, on the other hand, has the exact opposite problem. Instead of characters being overly literal, they're overly poetic. Characters don't speak like real people, but for the complete opposite reason. That and the movies filled to the brim with terrible comedy. And Rise of the Skywalker is Rise of the Skywalker. It's actually hard to find lines of dialogue in this movie that don't have issues with them. I mean, it would make my life a lot easier if I just targeted this movie. But I think even your average sequel trilogy fan, when they say the dialogue is better, there's an asterisk next to that saying, except Rise of the Skywalker. I don't want to make things too easy for myself, so I'm going to focus mainly on The Force Awakens and Last Jedi. So with all that being said, The Force Awakens. As I said, I do think the sequel trilogy has consistently better acting, and I think it's because of that people have missed that the dialogue in The Force Awakens has the exact same issue as the dialogue in the prequels.
Look how old you've become.
Something far worse has happened to you.
You know what I've come for.
I know where you come from. Before you called yourself Kylo Ren. The First Order rose from the dark side. You did not.
I'll show you the dark side.
You may try, but you cannot deny the truth. That is your family.
Nobody talks like this either.
Well, because of you, now we have a chance. The General's been after this for a long time.
The General? To me, she is royalty.
Subtle. Hey JJ, why don't you just have the actor wink at the camera while you're at it? It's not a natural response to what Poe said at all. There's no in-universe reason for him to say this. It's just there to tease the audience.
I didn't know there was this much green in the whole galaxy.
Is this any less cheesy than Anakin and Padme's love talk? I never thought there'd be this much green in the whole galaxy. This dialogue is so Shakespearean.
In the hands of your father, Han Solo.
Wow, thank you Snoke for explaining to Kylo Ren who Kylo Ren's dad is. Who was that for? The audience? Is this a Deadpool thing? Are you breaking the fourth wall?
We shall destroy the government that supports the resistance, the Republic.
Why did you say that like it's a revelation? He knows. In fact, we know. Why is this line in here?
Ever since Luke disappeared, people have been looking for him.
Oh really, they weren't looking for him before he went missing? That's sort of how disappearing works. For example, if a child goes missing, you're not going to search for them before they disappear, are you? Well, I mean, I'd hope not anyway. I think I've made my point. The dialogue is very ropey. Sure, sometimes there's good banter.
Why are you helping me?
Because it's the right thing to do.
You need a pilot.
I need a pilot.
And some funny one-liners.
We'll use the Force. That's not how the Force works.
And that line's only funnier in hindsight. But of course, the prequels also had their fair share of funny banter.
Well, R2 has been...
no loose wire jokes.
Did I say anything?
He's trying.
I didn't say anything.
And good one-liners.
Not to worry, we are still flying half a ship.
So, no. I'm not going to concede the dialogue is better in The Force Awakens, because it's not. It has the exact same issues and the exact same positives as the dialogue in the prequels, with the additional issue of the exposition being terrible, like explaining to someone who, just to be clear, knows who their dad is, just to reveal something to the audience. Make fun of the I don't like sand line all you want, and you should. It is a hilariously bad line, but at least Padme didn't already know what Anakin's opinion on sand is. Now, as brutal as I've been to The Force Awakens, I will give it some credit. While there are some stinkers in there, I think the comedy lands more often than not, which is more than I can say for the next two movies. The Force Awakens, if nothing else, is genuinely quite a funny film. And the characters also have some quite good chemistry, mainly Poe and Finn. There are things to praise about The Force Awakens. Now, if I haven't convinced you the dialogue in The Force Awakens is worse than the dialogue in the prequels, fair enough. I think it's close, and I think this is the only one in the trilogy where it's actually debatable. But I hope if nothing else I've established it's not as one-sided as people make it out to be.
This will begin to make things right.
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
Okay, so the dialogue is bad in The Force Awakens, but I'm sure it gets better in The Last Jedi. Well, the exposition isn't as atrocious as it is in The Force Awakens, but The Last Jedi has its own unique problem, where characters don't talk like real people and instead speak in weird, frolicky language, usually in the middle of active war zones.
Hope is like the sun. If you only believe in it when you can see it.
You'll never make it through the night.
Not fighting what we hate. Saving what we love.
Fight. No. We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Now, I don't know why the characters in The Last Jedi speak like live, laugh, love posters, but it's a little immersion breaking. I don't think a general in the middle of a battle would talk like this. And the cherry on top, she says this after her fleet has been fucking annihilated. Sir! We're pinned down! How the hell are we gonna get past that machine gun fire? Don't worry, Private. You see, hope never abandons you. You can only abandon hope. Yes, that's very profound, sir, but I think we should focus on the battle. Nothing is impossible. The word even says I'm possible. Yes, very good, sir. Can we perhaps sort of maybe try and formulate a plan? You have a plan, right? Well, Private, that's an excellent question, and I thank you for it. I think it's great we live in a time where you can ask questions, because without questions, we just have answers, and an answer without a question is just a statement. Is that a yes? No idea, but I predict it's going to be a most humorous line in a future show called Family Guy. What? What makes that line even more egregious? We're supposed to believe that quote comes from Leia, Princess Leia. Ryan, did you watch the originals? That's not how she talks.
2 fighters against a Star Destroyer?
The ion cannon will fire several shots to make sure that any enemy ships will be out of your flight path.
Leia has always been the most pragmatic out of the original trio, so why does she now speak like a fucking Yu-Gi-Oh character?
It's like the card says, shining friendship. No matter how dark things may get, The special bond I share with my friends will always find a way to shine through.
And also, the fact that Rose Tico says her saving what we love line, as the shot shows the massive laser beam blowing up what she loves in the background. It's honestly hilarious. Was this scene trying to be funny? Because if so, Rian Johnson nailed it. However, given what the comedy's like when it's intentional...
Look, I can't hold forever. If you reach him, tell him Leia has an urgent message for him.
I believe he's tooling with you, sir.
About his mother.
I'm gonna guess it wasn't deliberate. As I said earlier, as bad as some of the lines are in Force Awakens, it at least has its fair share of funny lines. The comedy in The Last Jedi is just cringe.
Hugs?
He can.
With an H? Skinny guy? Kind of pasty?
Funny.
This could get a video of its own, although apparently someone's already made it. The comedy in this movie is painfully predictable.
There are things that you cannot solve by jumping in an X-Wing and blowing something up.
Permission to jump in an X-Wing and blow something up?
Permission granted.
It's not about lifting rocks.
Nowhere.
No one's from nowhere.
Jakku.
All right, that is pretty much nowhere.
Was there a single soul on this planet that didn't predict those punchlines? Despite Ryan's obsession with being subversive and subversion playing a huge role in comedy, Ryan's comedy is woefully predictable.
Luke grabs it, and the way the music was going, I was like, he's gonna shit can that thing over his shoulder. Totally did.
Not only that, but the jokes are often made at the expense of the characters, or more specifically, their characterization. It's especially jarring with Luke, who is supposed to be at his lowest and darkest point in his life. Yet all of a sudden, the character is now a fucking comedian, despite never really being a comedic character up until this point. Little trivia for you, George Lucas was originally going to have Anakin quipping and making jokes while killing the Separatists, but cut out that dialogue because it undermines the serious tone he was going for. And if George Lucas is showing more restraint than you in terms of shoehorning in unnecessary comedy, something has gone horribly wrong. In fact, and I know this isn't a dialogue issue, but while I'm on the subject of comedy, at least George Lucas restricted his slapstick to the slapstick characters. At no point did he think Tarkin or Dooku needed to slip on a banana peel. I forgot how much terrible slapstick was in The Last Jedi. It may actually be worse than The Phantom Menace, and believe me, I do not say that lightly. But back to the subject at hand, to wrap up my thoughts on the movie's dialogue. I really thought going into this video I was going to concede the dialogue is the best in this movie out of the three. But now, I mean, I can't say it's the worst when Rise of the Skywalker exists, but the comedy being such a massive downgrade over The Force Awakens, or Schindler's List for that matter, this movie may actually have the second worst dialogue in the Skywalker saga. It's bad, but not as bad as...
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Yeah, I'm not going to go as in-depth with this one because, I mean, do you need me to? Is there anyone out there defending Rise of the Skywalker's dialogue? Or almost anything about Rise of the Skywalker for that matter? Don't get me wrong, I know they're out there, but they're few and far between, and the ones that are just show how hard it is to defend this movie.
I guess I'd say pretend for a watch through that it's what you wanted and see how you feel.
Yeah, maybe if you just try and pretend the movie isn't crap, you can gaslight yourself into thinking it's good. So that all being said, we're just gonna have a laugh at some of the worst lines in the film. No need to get too analytical, let's just shoot some fish in a barrel.
And I'm all the Jedi.
Aww. You really thought this was going to be your Avengers Endgame moment, didn't you? No!
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Yeah, no need to elaborate, that's what Fortnite's for.
I really admire how you stack the odds against yourself.
The Emperor is dead.
Dark science. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith knew.
Okay, I guess that's technically an attempt at elaborating. Don't know what you mean when you say cloning is a secret only the Sith knew, when the clones were created by Kaminoans, who weren't Sith. Also, that still doesn't explain much. Is the new one a clone? Is the old one a clone? I still have questions.
You're just a memory.
Your memory.
That's not how memories work. Kylo, this is what is called a hallucination. You might be schizophrenic, my dude. I'd get that checked out. Also, if this is just in Kylo's head and not a Force ghost, that means he's literally just forgiving himself in this scene.
Rey Skywalker.
And let's not even get into any scenes starring Princess Leia. I understand it was going to be hard to put Carrie Fisher in this movie because she had to quite selfishly die before they could finish making these movies, and for a reason only God knows. They decided to keep the scene in where her corpse comes back to life and flies towards the spaceship. After all, how else was she going to spend the rest of the movie in a coma? Not the choice I would have made, mind you, but that's why I don't work in Hollywood. I don't have what it takes to make these brainy decisions. Assuming we can't change The Last Jedi, and she died a year before that film came out, but assuming we can't change it for some reason, instead of having these awkward scenes where the characters are clearly talking around the fact they have no new dialogue, I think they should have just had her funeral at the start of the movie, and for the trilogy while they're at it. Now, before I wrap this video up, I should probably address the counterpoint I reckon I'm gonna get the most, because whenever you criticise the sequel trilogy, the most common response is always, well, the original trilogy started it! But that's not gonna fly here. Firstly, because I apply the standards equally. I will be forthcoming about whatever flaws I think the original trilogy has, in fact I have been. But secondly, the dialogue in the original trilogy is just remarkably better. And I know I started this video with a clip of Alec Guinness shitting on the original trilogy's dialogue. In fact, a lot of the OT's actors have made fun of the dialogue.
You can type this stuff, but you can't say it. Move your mouth while you're talking.
But that ended up working in the original trilogy's favour, because the actors were there to make improvements to the dialogue. Harrison Ford was just there improvising one of the most iconic lines in cinema history.
I know.
I'm not saying there's no hammy lines, only a Master of Evil Darth is never going to win Comeback of the Year. But it's a matter of degree, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend the original trilogy has just as many bad lines as the sequel trilogy or prequel trilogy for that matter. Hell, I don't even think Empire Strikes Back has any bad lines. I looked to see if anyone else found any, and the most common example people gave was Leia calling Han Laserbrain. And I don't even see what's wrong with that, to be honest. What, that she uses a PG insult in a PG movie? It's not like she's going to call him the N-word, is it?
Why, you stuck up, half-witted, scruffy-looking...
Although to be fair, she calls Chewie a walking carpet when they first meet. So who knows, maybe she is canonically a racist. Anyway, point is, I don't mind a sci-fi or fantasy universe using their own sci-fi or fantasy insults. You better bet I'm calling people milk drinker if I've played Skyrim recently. But if you think Empire Strikes Back does have some bad lines, then feel free to make your case in the comments. I'll be more than happy to hear you out. To wrap things up, I get if you're not fully convinced the sequel trilogy has worse dialogue than the prequel trilogy. After all, the prequels have been criticised for decades, and one of the prevalent criticisms, if not the prevailing criticism, is just how terrible the dialogue is. So for me to come in here and suggest the sequel trilogy actually has worse dialogue, when the common consensus is that's one of the things the sequel trilogy undebatably improved upon, well, I know it's not going to be an easy argument to make, but it's what I genuinely believe, so it's an argument I've made. Maybe you're not convinced, but I hope you at least see it's more of a rivalry than people make it out to be. With all that being said, guys, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, press the new hype button, kidnap someone, tie them down to a chair, make them watch all my videos. That would really help me out in the algorithm. Wait until they develop Stockholm Syndrome so you can manipulate them into kidnapping more people, and we just keep repeating the process until we've got a whole cult going on. It would really help me out in the algorithm if I had my own cult. Thank you for watching.